Looks like the attendee list has leveled off, so we'll get started with the weekly business update. As always, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A so we can get to those at the time. So without further ado, I'll turn this over to Jeff Walczak.
Thank you, Ken. And as we always have to do for every webinar, we have to tell you that we are not endorsed, sponsored, or anything else by FedEx Corporation. And hey, Becca, what does eTruckBiz do?
Hey, Jeff. So, a lot of times when I am talking to service providers, they've either heard about us from another service provider and they hear how we helped them, and it may be just one particular area. A lot of times people are unaware of everything that we do. So, we do a lot more than most people realize. eTruckBiz helps service providers in different ways depending on where they are on their contractor journey from day one all the way to scaling up. So it's everything, and we really do mean everything that you need in one place. So for new service providers, there's no financial guidance from FedEx or no real guidance at all from FedEx. They just tell you certain things like you need to meet service and so forth. But eTruckBiz will provide structure, and most service providers are going to spend a lot of money just by learning from mistakes. For veteran service providers, we know that you can get bogged down making service happen. We provide systems that will rejuvenate your service provider focus, and then you can start realizing the profit margins that you deserve. And then for our expanding service providers, the challenge would be translating successful operating practices across multiple facilities become chaotic. We will provide the cost-effective infrastructure needed to bring multi-facility operators into one organized and efficient operating model. So this is going to simplify smooth operations and profitability across multiple locations, having a system that takes care of everything one place. So we are the only platform that can and will handle these issues across every stage of your contractor journey, whether you're looking into a business or expanding. If you want to have a discovery session and see everything that we offer, you can scan this QR code to schedule and get put on the calendar, or you can always email me, Becca@eTruckBiz.com, and I will be able to answer some questions or get something scheduled for you.
All right, very cool. And I see this week we have Taylor on here from Impact Solutions. How you doing, Taylor?
Hi, Jeff. Hi, guys. How are you?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
And last week I guess something happened and couldn't be on here, but we talked about you anyway. Don't worry, it was good. Ken talked bad about you, but I talked good about you.
It's what I do.
Ken, how dare you?
And last week, our question was, how does running a safe operation help save money? Would you have any insight into that this week, or a safety blurb
Yeah,
or something here?
yeah, of course. So safety starts with one, onboarding drivers, right? So a consistent qualification process ensures the drivers start with the same foundation. That's going to help when it comes to, again, building a safety culture, which is going to spread among the drivers. So once they're onboarding, the training should not end though. So an ongoing education is going to really help reinforce those safe driving habits, keeps the topics fresh, allows company to address new challenges. It's a lot easier to just go ahead and start off by building that safety foundation before any other issues arise. So yeah, definitely QualCert and e-learning are crucial to saving money. It's going to help prevent incidents. You're going to save on truck repairs. It just the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that's really good. So safety does matter. In our budget analyses, we don't have a line item for accidents, right? FedEx doesn't pay you more because they think you're gonna have accidents, right? It comes right off the bottom line if you have to pay for accidents. So
Exactly.
So it's real important to keep the safety awareness up. Thank you very much, Ms. Taylor.
But also the other unseen cost is if that truck's in the shop getting repaired, you end up with rental costs as well. So
Yeah, it just
Great point.
safety. Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Ken. Also, we'd like to let everybody know, we've been letting everybody know every week, so we're going to let you know again. There's going to be a seminar for new and prospective service providers September 1st and 2nd here in Huntsville, Alabama. We know a lot of folks getting into the business watch either they're here now or they'll watch the videos later on YouTube. This will be a great place for you to come and talk to other contractors. Some have been around for a long time. Some are just like you. If you're just getting into the business right now, they're in the same boat you are. This is where to talk to them to get really what's going on. So, anyways, again, September 1st and 2nd in Huntsville, Alabama. You can scan that QR code and go to the page where you can get some more information or ask questions now. So, as we do every week, we're going to talk about how the volume did last week. And not surprisingly, a holiday week, you tend to see a dip in the volume. Now, problem with a holiday week is sometimes it's real strong when it's not supposed to be. Sometimes it's not there when it's supposed to be. Were you going to say something, Ken?
Yeah, definitely going to fall off with that holiday on Friday. Not everybody was closed, but a lot of places were closed.
A lot of places where it's tough to know. It's tough to operate when stuff like that goes on. But there you go. That's what happened to the pickup stops were down. However, the delivery volume hung in there for the week. So I guess it was a pretty good week other than Friday, right? So it's tough, again, tough to manage. And here we go, talking about managing. Routes dispatch were down. That's good, but stops per dispatch, I don't know. For a holiday week, you gonna take that one, or are you gonna say, no, no, that's a bad trend going on there?
Yeah, you should have had a good week leading up to Friday. Hopefully, it was enough to carry it, but apparently not quite enough. But we can make that up this week.
Go, go, go. So a little bit of news out there. FedEx sheds its supply chain unit. So as most of you know, freight spun off, and if I remember, I think it somehow generated $3 billion worth of cash. Not exactly sure how that worked out, but I think FedEx Corporation got a bunch of cash. And then they sold off the supply chain unit, logistics unit. Interesting that they're raising cash at this time. Volume seems to be hanging in there, all kinds of things going on. Of course, freight, everybody knew that was going to happen for years, but I don't know that this was known to the general public for a while. So I don't know. Raising cash, shutting down terminals, cutting costs, and raising cash. You want to speculate there, Ken? No? Okay, never mind. All right, so this week we want to talk about AdminIQ. AdminIQ, as most of you know, is a great way for you to shed your non-revenue producing tasks so that you can focus on your operation, right? None of that stuff enhances what the money that you make. It's just stuff. Why do you got to do it? I got to do it because I got to do it. We want you to, especially if you're new, especially if you're thinking about getting into the business, this is something that is very important that you understand. You don't want to build an administrative structure after you get started, because what happens? After you get started, you don't have time to do all that stuff. You're trying to figure out how to get the packages delivered and everything else. You need to put all these things together to begin with, right? So building the business behind the dispatches, we need to stress those of you that are looking to get in or just got in, whatever, that you need to build the admin part of your business 30 days before you stand up to your new contract. There's a bunch of hidden problems. When you get started, everybody starts worrying about trucks, drivers, staffing, all that kind of stuff. And no one thinks about, well, should I have a process for recruiting drivers? Maybe you think you do. Well, maybe I know 5 or 6 people that might want to get in there. That's great. What if you burn through 12 your first day, which can happen? Do you have a process for that? Not just, I'm going to do it this way. I need a process, a way to recruit drivers all the time. right? And then there's a cost to doing all these things. People say, I'll just do it myself. You can, but then other things that matter, other things that generate revenue don't get the attention they need when you're doing administrative tasks. All right, so early disorder becomes a long time. So that's the other thing. Get started in the hole, then what happens? You kind of stay in the hole because you're trying to figure out what's going on, and it goes on for 6 months. Then your first year is down the toilet, right? Now, another thing to do, even though we're about to talk to one or two seasoned pro contractors on here in a second, we're going to ask a bunch of questions. They're vetted. They know what they're doing, right? But what do most new contractors do? They start asking around to other folks. And here's the thing, guys, other contractors are not necessarily the best sources for information. I know everybody thinks that they are, but other contractors are actually sometimes directly, but mostly indirectly competitors of yours. Well, how can they be a competitor? They're doing the same thing. They're competing for drivers. They're competing for different resources. They're competing sometimes for attention from the terminal. Who knows, whatever. 30 days before you get started, we want you to get going with AdminIQ. We already said that. So anyways, AdminIQ is the way to get around all the problems we were talking about. That's the thing to do if you're a new contractor. Let's go through a couple of these things. Now, today, we have Tracy Taylor on here with us. And even though he didn't know that we might say something to him, and maybe he's a little not wanting to talk, but we see you in there. So, Mr. Taylor, for the folks either on here or that'll watch this later, can you tell us real quick who you are, what you're doing, how long you've been around?
Yep, I'm Tracy Taylor. I own Desert Fox Logistics, and I've been around. I started out as a package handler in 2008, started contracting in 2012. I've got two P&D operations. Used to have a really large line haul operation that we got rid of last year, and that's about me, and I'm out here in Kansas.
Hey, Mr. Sprinkles, do you want to talk today or not?
I can if you need me to.
You didn't know you were gonna.
But hey, I'm new to this stuff.
He's never shy, though.
Well, but you're new to it. This way, maybe you can say, well, no or yes. I mean, just because you're not new to contracting,
No.
right? No, you've been around forever and a day. So,
Yes.
but the AdminIQ program, maybe you might be somewhat new. So there you go. There's a good perspective from a new guy and a guy that's been doing it for like 9 zillion years. So let me
Yes.
ask the both of you, if you don't mind. We're going to try to go through these quickly, but what administrative tasks did you underestimate when you first started contracting?
All of them.
Yes.
But did you know there were any?
No, not really, to be super honest.
Well, I mean, in a way, you kind of knew that you were going to have to do payroll, right? But did you know all the other things that you were going to have to do? Most folks underestimate that, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
I didn't really think that you had to do as much stuff as you have to do, and it's only gotten more stuff since I started.
Okay. Why is it difficult to build an administrative system from scratch?
Because you don't know what you don't know, is what I would say.
So, for instance, for payroll, there are some DOT rules that are associated with payroll, some Department of Labor rules that are associated with payroll. The weights of trucks matter. FedEx audits matter. There's a whole bunch of things. People say, well, it can't be that hard to do payroll. It can take me 10 minutes to do that. Nope. Anybody that says that's probably not doing it right, or they're just telling you something you want to hear. All right, the next question is, what early mistakes create the most disruption later in the year? So let's payroll to go. What if we do our payroll wrong? And if there's any of our admin folks on here, if you want to chime in here too, if we start doing payroll wrong, what can happen later from that?
Your work comp can go crazy because, like me, I pay every week based on my payroll, and if I skip, if I do it wrong, then I'm charged wrong. And then when I have an annual audit, I'm exposed to additional liability for premium that was unaccounted for.
Right? That can get very costly, hugely costly.
As far as ASM, as far as AdminIQ and us ASMs, I mean, passing your guys' payroll audits is a big deal for us, and we pay attention to that all year. So making sure that we're running things appropriately throughout the year so that Tracy Taylor over here can pass his audit like he did this year.
Yeah, good job on that, Mr. Taylor. Good job. So what
It
happens if
helps
I
when someone else does it for you.
don't? Somebody else knows what they're doing, does it for you, right? And really, that's the way it should be. Should you be worrying about people clocking in and clocking out, right? Yes, you should be worrying about that, but not catching that now and trying to fix it 6 months later when you get audited, what happens?
Plus during the week, it's easy to miss. If somebody worked, then you have an upset employee as well, if they did not get paid for a day that they worked.
Right. So catching mistakes is another big deal here. How does organization affect compliance and preventable business issues? So if you're organized and you know what you're doing, that's a good example. We just used the payroll example, the timekeeping issue. If you're organized, now what does organized mean from a punching in, punching out standpoint? So can I get my drivers to punch in and punch out? Most people that are new to the business think, oh, that's easy. Everybody punches in and punches out. Well, what happens in this space?
Reality hits. And because the drivers weren't made to do it before, why would I have to start doing it now? I get paid by the day.
Right. So God forbid we ask somebody to punch in and punch out. Most people think that's just natural, right? Would you agree with that, Mr. Sprinkles and or Mr. Taylor?
I do. I definitely agree with that because we still have people that don't want to clock in or clock out. They're missing one or the other or both.
Right.
We pay by the hour, so if you want to get paid, you either clock in or you don't and work for free.
Well, you have a little bit more control over your operation than most, Mr. Taylor, that's for sure. But it is especially difficult. So it's bad enough in an operation that is right there in front of you, right? What about if I've got a multi-facility operation and you can't be there to make sure everybody's punching in and punching out, right? Do you have a system and process for that? Most people would be honest. They say, no, I don't have a way. I have to depend on the BC making sure that happens. Well, there needs to be a way to make sure everybody's punching in and punching out across all your different operations. Both of you now are multi-facility folks. So
You have to have a process in place. That's what it all comes down to.
right. And hopefully AdminIQ is providing you that process or close to all of that process. Which AdminIQ processes have helped create more consistency? How about recruiting? The both of you can maybe testify to this one.
Yeah, the recruiting's been tremendous to get some analytics and some data on our recruiting. So when the station is complaining about our recruiting, I could say, the last 30 days, I've had 70 applicants, 30 of them were ineligible, 20 of them can't fill out the application, and I'm trying to get the other 20 in here.
I'm in the early process of the recruiting part. I'm moving terminals, so even with the systems, that's what's critical is 2.0 when you're moved from one terminal to the next, you're going and the drivers that you have don't, doesn't come with you, then recruiting is crucial for sure.
Right. So having a process and you're going through this, I guess we're learning it right now, having a consistent all the time process turned on. So that's something you don't have to worry about as a big, big deal, I would think.
The other thing that the IQ processes do is create scalability.
So that you can do the same things the same ways over all of your operations?
Correct.
Yep, that's a big deal. That is most of the folks getting on the programs, especially if they're multi-facility. You can see that. That's easy to see, right? McDonald's makes a hamburger the same way, and every restaurant do it the same way, and it makes it a lot easier to do, more efficient, and actually it's more cost effective in the end. Okay. How has structured administration changed records, deadlines, and responsibilities?
For us, it's improved. We've better access. Like we used to keep pretty good records, but they're all handwritten. So a digitized record makes sharing those facts much simpler. And then I saw that a guy needed a new driver's license 30 days ago, but I got busy and now there's 7 days left, and this thing's constantly bothering me to say, hey, this guy needs his driver's license.
Let's, for instance, we'll use a different program than the IQ program. We'll go over to Budget IQ. If we're tracking daily dispatch yield or how much a dispatch is actually either costing us or making us, before the daily dispatch yield report, was either of you able to track your costs, your revenue and expenses by the dispatch?
Not on a consistent basis.
No.
Would you agree or not agree? You can not agree just because I'm asking the question, but would you agree that that's really the scoreboard, that's the key, that's this business? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree, because it's hard to, I think a lot of guys get in trouble because they just kind of guesstimate and round. And that's fine if you're doing a pretty large thing, but if you want to drill down the last, we're chasing the last 10% for that margin. It goes in our pocket, and if you're rounding and you've got a 10% error, you just gave away 10%.
Yeah, I think under 2.0, you have to have the visibility. If not, you will not be around.
Right, because it's a much more complicated operation. If you're already trying to watch what you're trying to watch, and maybe we're not watching it like we should anyway, now I have 5 other things to watch. It can get away from you a lot quicker now. It could get away from you before, that's for sure. But
Yes.
now that once you get into 2.0, if you're not watching things like daily dispatch yield, and as Tracy brought up before, people's driver's licenses that are expiring and all kinds of other things, bam. Can't just replace drivers like we used to, even though sometimes it seems like we have to. Yeah, we have to, but it's better to keep the folks around that know what they're doing, because it's a much more complicated operation. So anyway, all right. The next one. Okay, there's a good one for you. I don't know if Tracy, I don't know if you should answer this or not. Why does informal contractor advice create confusion?
PG version.
You can answer, Mr. Taylor.
It creates confusion because typically when you ask a fellow contractor a question, unless you're explicitly very specific in your question, you're just going to get a really broad, generalized answer, because if you're wanting a specific answer, that guy doesn't know what you're doing or what's going on or all the details of the whys, the who's, the what's, the whens, and the wheres. So, they may have your best interest at heart, but at the end of the day, it's not their business. So what vested interest is having the advice of your neighbor do for you?
Yeah, it's a whole wide range of things here. Either the person that you're asking really does care about your problem and that happens. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that do give good answers to, what should I do about this? What should I do about that? But the problem, especially as a new contractor, you don't know what's good advice and what's bad advice, right? Somebody could be giving you good advice. How do you know that? What if they're giving you bad advice? How would you know that either? Right? So it's not that we're not trying to say that all contractors give bad advice. We're not saying that. We're just saying that it's good to get things, bounce it off a few places, right? Okay. What would you say to a contractor who thinks they can figure it out as they go? So we've seen that, I don't know how many times, where somebody gets started and they just know everything. They ran IBM, Apple, and Waste Management all at one time. So they know everything there is about driving a truck, and they know how to do it. So they're going to figure it out. So what would you guys say to somebody like that, Mr. Taylor or Mr.
If you're not a lawyer, you're not going to fight a case in court. So get some guidance.
I would say go get them, Tiger.
It's just going to create an opportunity for you later.
Yes, that's where contingency comes in. Yes.
That's right. And that might, well, and that's why maybe, so I won't
Refer to question 8 again.
that I was just going to say, that's if you're looking at getting somebody else's area and somebody came over to you and said, hey, how should I do this or why should I do that? Why would I give you a good answer if I think I'm going to get some of your zip codes or something? Right? Never know. Never know. All right. And I think this is the last question. And this is a good one here. Looking back, what could better structure have saved? Better administrative structure, what could it have saved you? So could it have saved you some time? Think about figuring everything out yourself. Would it have saved you some time? How much time?
Yeah, I would say it would save a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of stress to have, systems in place. Where like me, I've sat on the sidelines of eTruckBiz, and doing pretty much doing my own thing. And now with 2.0, you're definitely going to need structure and systems in place to keep moving forward because FedEx always changes. That's number one. FedEx will change almost by the day.
You got that right. And yeah, Mr. Sprinkles, you're right. You can. There's some, if you want it, I don't want to say coasting is not really a good word because it's still hard to run the business, one of them, and it's not in 2.0. I mean, it's hard enough to do that, but you're right. I think you got it. And you're the proof. Once you get to 2.0 for sure, look out. Things get a little more complicated and it'll be easier to run your business and more profitable to run your business if we handle a bunch of the non-revenue producing tasks for you, right? Didn't mean to answer that for you, but I did.
No.
But no,
I'd
you're
probably
right.
have more time to do fun stuff if I had more structure.
Like fly airplanes.
In Andrew's case, Andrew's one who started with one truck down on Metro Center many, many years ago. Now he's got 2 CSAs in 2 different buildings. And oh, yeah, your one CSA is going to move to another building, correct, Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah. So you got thrown a curveball. And like I said, we're glad you came to eTruckBiz to help you realign your batting stance and realign your CSA and move to a different station. So,
All right. So thank you guys for being here today. Thank everybody for being here today. That's for sure. And sorry, Mr. Sprinkles, for putting you on the spot there, but you did fine. Did a
No
good
worries.
job.
that's your initiation fee.
So, Ken, is there any questions or any comments out there?
It does not look like there are any comments, but if you are thinking about making this move, we strongly encourage you to do that. If you have questions, please reach out to Becca. If you'd like to reach out to one of our customers, just let us know. We can probably set up that meeting just because we firmly believe this is the most valuable program that we have so you can focus on your operation. As Andrew said, there's going to be too much going on with everything else. He needed to step away from this. Something he's done for years and years, grew into it, but has done it well for years, but says, I need help now. And if you're new, do it right just from the get-go. Going back at kind of the 110, 100 rule, it's going to cost you $1. If you try to do it yourself in a month, you realize I can't do this myself. It's going to cost you $10. A year later, it's going to cost you 100 times like 10 or times 100. If you're new, please start with the foundation. As the McDonald's that flips those hamburgers, they might have a building, but they got to have all the equipment inside to run it right. So does not look like we have any questions. I want to thank everybody for being here. We will be back here next Tuesday again. And if we don't talk to you before then, please have a safe and profitable week.